Oh gosh, I love it. I get theme music when I come up here. I feel like I'm on Def Comedy Jam. Hey, how's everybody doing this morning? Good, good. So we have our serious clinical research professionals left because everybody else, the slackers, had to leave and they couldn't stay for the closing plenary. So we have the serious clinical research professionals left with us today. Thank you, Jess, for that introduction. I just want to echo her thanks for what you all do. So these past couple of days, I've just met some truly amazing people. And you all are truly amazing. You all have decided to be part of the greatest profession, I think, in the world, because we don't just participate in the practice of medicine, we actually improve the practice of medicine. And to a certain extent, I used to think that I chose this profession, but as I have been in this profession now over 20 years, I realized that the profession really chose me. And this is a calling that I think all of us in this room have really been able to embrace. And I just appreciate you all accepting this call into this great and noble profession. So give yourselves another round of applause. And thank you all for being here at the end, and thank you all for choosing SOCRA as your mechanism to grow and be professionally enriched and educated in refining your craft. So I am not going to be up here long, I don't think. How long do I have? I have like 35 minutes, so I'll speak for maybe 30 of them. But I just want to leave you all with a thought or two to take back with you to kind of think about where this industry is headed, where we've been, and I think where we have the potential to go. So I don't have any personal, professional, financial relationship with respect to this educational activity. Eric, if you all want to pay me to do this, I will accept any money that you give me. But seriously, I don't have any relationship with this activity. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. And I'm going to need your energy. I'm going to need your feedback. I'm going to ask you to raise your hands. I might even ask you to stand up. So just work with me, and this will go by really fast. We're going to look at some key milestones in the evolution of our industry, our profession. We're going to look at some current trends. We're going to look at funding. We're going to look at oversight. We're going to look at conduct. And we're going to look at a strategy. And you're going to help me outline a strategy for how we re-envision a sustainable clinical research agenda. And so what we're going to try to do this morning is we're going to try to tie everything that we've learned during the course of this conference. We're going to try to tie it up in a neat little bow and take it home with us to make clinical research better tomorrow than it was today. All right, so in 1999, there was a clinical research national call to action. And this was done at a conference, the Association of American Medical Colleges, AAMC. And they discovered 8 issues that were critical to the conduct of clinical research. Now, this was in 1999. So I'm going to read these 8 issues, and I want you, as I read them, I want you to raise your hand if you think it's still an issue in 2023. All right, everybody understand the assignment? Okay, the first issue that they recognized, lack of understanding by the general public. Oh, wow, okay. A resounding agreement that this is still an issue. Okay, lack of funding data. Okay. Lack of interest. Okay. Okay. This one I'm scared to say. Okay. All right. I'm going to get in trouble because we have investigators and staff here, but it was on the list, so I got to mention it. All right. Lack of trained investigators and staff. Okay. A lot more hands than I thought. Insufficient of incorporating research into practice. Okay. Inadequate coordination of research centers. Well, dang, we are not doing too good. All right. Fiscal concerns. And then the last one is lack of a comprehensive research agenda. Okay, so what you all are telling me is that everything that was an issue in 1999, it may still be an issue in 2023. All right, so we're going to look at each of these and kind of see where we are, and then we're going to come up with our strategy, and then I'm going to give it back over to Jess. All right, so let's talk about some of the agencies that have been involved to try to mitigate that list and try to make that list not have such a negative impact on our industry. So 2002, 2003, NIH said, hey, this whole GCRC thing might not be working, so let's look at a roadmap for medical research. So they launched the CTSA. Who's from an institution that has a CTSA here? Okay, so a few of you. So a few of you know about this mechanism. Between 2013 and 2022, this expanded to 63 institutions, down from the 84 GCRCs that existed under the old model. So there's 63 institutions that have this thing that really enables us to do more clinical research. Translation of ideas to community, conduct of clinical trials as a priority. And the big thing about this was it was a shift from only government funding to more partnership with industry. So I think that the government realized that the government doesn't have to fund all the clinical research, that we should partner more with industry because the industry's agenda, their mission, aligns well with ours. So there's about $640 million that has gone to the CTSA program. So did y'all know it was that much money? Yeah, it's a lot of money. All right, the NIH budget, we're talking about $47.8 billion going to research. The National Center for Advanced and Translational Sciences, which is where our work really resides, about 923, so that's flat from last year. So there's still some interest from the government to fund these efforts that we're doing. And so this is promising, I think, to us as an industry that we do have government backing, at least to a reasonable extent. CMS has got into this discussion about clinical trials, right? Particularly on the clinical trial billing side. So the national coverage decision, routine costs in clinical trials. So CMS, they've even got into this discussion about clinical trials. And historically, they never really took part in any discussion about clinical trials. Now they're even involved. So you see, we're going in a good direction since 1999. Maybe we are. We'll see in a second. Affordable Care Act mentioned research. Did y'all know that? Okay, some of you did. If you didn't, I'm going to give you a homework assignment before we leave today. But the Affordable Care Act, they had some discussion, they opined about our industry as well, right? And what they talked about was the obligation of insurers to cover routine costs in clinical trials. They didn't want people that participate in clinical trials to be at a deficit from health care because they were participating in clinical trials. So the Affordable Care Act even got in on the conversation. And then the 21st Century Cures Act, which talks about all the ways that we make this world healthier and all the ways that we do cool stuff in health care. And then the 21st Century Cures Act, they also got into the conversation about clinical research. And I've listed a couple of the areas that they did. They talked about alleviating administrative burden to study startup. And I know none of you have any burden to study startup, right? Okay. So it really worked, okay? No, but the data sharing, so this whole concept of open source, open access, that was part of the 21st Century Cure Act. More protections for privacy of individuals that participate in trials, and then also an encouragement of inclusion and having a more diverse population of clinical trial subjects. So all of these government agencies have sort of leaned into this very important conversation about clinical research. So let's look at this call to action a little bit deeper. These 8 issues were identified in 1999 as barriers to our work in clinical research. Lack of understanding by the general public. Most of you raised your hand and said that there still seems to be a lack of understanding by the general public. And a lot of it is trust. Now, why does our industry have an issue with trust? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked me that. The reason why this industry has an issue with trust is because there's inconsistent and conflicting information that our industry, not necessarily our industry is given, but all of the media outlets that now feel like they have an opinion about our industry. We saw this probably most vividly during COVID-19, during the development of the vaccine, but also during the treatment of COVID-19. We saw the media doing things like interchanging words like authorized and approved. And so even when you Googled approved COVID-19 vaccines, Moderna and Pfizer came up as approved when they were actually just authorized. So you see where I'm going with this? This inconsistent information. And then you had the CDC saying things, the FDA saying things that were in agreement sometimes, but not all the time. And then we had our lovely president of the United States getting in on the conversation, telling you that, it's patriotic to do certain things. And so all these things kind of converged to give all these messages that were unfortunately not consistently given. And so when message is not consistent, there is a very difficult time that we have to trust the information that we're given. And then there is the turf wars. So who do we believe? Do we believe this side of the aisle or this side of the aisle? Should we wear a mask? Should we not wear a mask? Should we get vaccinated? Should we not get vaccinated? And all these things actually, if we weren't paying attention, they actually impacted our ability to be clinical research authorities because everyone else was weighing in. Emergency use. So emergency use historically was used just to talk about emergent use, life-threatening situation, real time. But there was a whole part of the regulation that we never looked at because we never used it in that context. There's another part of emergency use that talks about you can do things if it's in response to a public health crisis. But that's the part of the regulation we didn't really know because we never used emergency use in that context. And so there needed to be a whole education done around emergency use. But we didn't do that. We just said emergency use, so use it. So all these things have kind of fed into this lack of understanding about the general public. And then depending on where you live, will have a large influence on what you think about research and how you trust it. So lack of understanding, we still have an issue there. Lack of funding data. So I'm just going to give you some numbers just so you know how much money you're making for these companies. And this was something that the NIH used to push back on us. They said, well, all you're doing, and people that are from the old GCRC world, I'm looking at Shirley, the old GCRC world, the NIH said, y'all need to quit making all this money for pharmaceutical companies. That's what they told us. They said that's what we were doing. We were making pharmaceutical companies rich. Now, I don't know if we're making them rich, but we are making them rich. But I don't know if that's the point here. We're partnering with these individuals that are making these therapies that make the world healthier. So it's all good, right? So clinical trial market size, we're talking about $49.8 billion. So we're talking about a huge financial enterprise. Phase 3 is the biggest part. I'm sure probably you all knew that. And interventional makes up the largest part of the revenue share. Pharma biotech accounts for about 69.9% of the revenue share, and oncology research. Who does oncology research in here? Yeah, oncology research is still the biggest research area in terms of revenue share. So the lack of funding data that was mentioned in 1999 is not really an issue anymore because we have the funding data if we just go after it. Lack of interest. Now, all of you all work with PIs that are very, very interested in doing clinical trials, right? Or they wouldn't be doing them. Now, there has been a trend of one-and-done PIs. What do I mean by that? They do one study and they say, you know what, the juice is not worth the squeeze. I love that. Juice is not worth. It's like a little song, right? All right. Juice is not worth the squeeze. So PIs are saying, hey, I'll do one study and then I'm done. Now that number actually dropped from 2015 to now. So we have less PIs doing the one and done. So that's actually a good direction, right? Conducting 2 or 3, that's actually grown since 2015. And the number of PIs conducting 4 or more has actually grown since 2015. So this is a good trend. So we have PI interest. Sponsors interest, where are they interested in the sites, right? And I don't mean to speak for sponsors, but I'm on stage now, so I get to kind of do what I want to do. So they're interested in telemedicine, right? Remote monitoring. They're interested in sites, a lot more interest in North American sites now than it was about 5 years ago. And then they want to know if your site can flow operationally. And so that's what they're interested in site selection. Potential subject interest. Now, we keep talking about subject recruitment, right? 40 to 50% of clinical trials enroll 0 subjects. All of you all should go, that's an issue. 0 subjects. Now, it takes just as much time to start a study that enrolls 100 subjects as it does for a study that enrolls 0 subjects. So the amount of time that we spend on starting a study doesn't change because we don't enroll any subjects. 75% to 85% don't meet the target. So we have a serious issue with interest from potential. And we talked about some of the trust issues that may be contributing to this. In terms of race and ethnic minority participation, I'll come back to that in a second. It varies from 3% to 6%, but there's inconsistent information on whether that's increasing or decreasing. Some stats say it's increasing. We're having more minority participation, but some stats say that it's actually getting worse. So inconsistent information again. Potential workforce. Our labor stats say that it's going to grow as an industry, 18% by 2030. So all of us have job security. Yeah, y'all can clap. Shoot. Yeah, job security. Yeah. I would hire all of you if I could. So, and I hope you would hire me if you could. Lack of trained personnel. Dr. Califf said it's time to fix the system. We need a major reform. And what he was talking about was the people that we have and their amount of training. Look, we have 1 coordinator to every 7 job postings. 1 trained coordinator every job posting. 1 in terms of clinical research nurse, 1 to 10. Regulatory is even worse, 1 to 35. So a lot of positions are open, but we don't have a lot of people that are trained to fill them. What we end up doing is we end up taking people that have interest in sort of shifting in their careers to do something different. But in terms of them having a background in it, we see a huge deficit there. Turnover rate is really, really high. Are y'all seeing that in your sites? Turnover rate, particularly in the study coordinator level and even in regulatory, we're seeing a lot of turnover. And then lack of clarity about the role. Do I need to be certified? Do I not need to be certified? Do I need to hire a coordinator that's RN trained? Is it okay if they're LPN trained? And it's all these things about clarity. So this appears to still be an issue for us today. Incorporating research into practice. Now this is non-existent. There's really no good way for an investigator to incorporate what they learn in research into their practice. There's no mechanism, there's no system set up to make that transition, and unfortunately, there's no incentive. Our clinicians, if they never use evidence-based practice, no one would ever say anything. If they didn't base their decisions on, say, hey, I'm basing this on the most current research, if they didn't say that, no one would care. And that's an issue, because we're taking away the emphasis on answering these questions and discovery and innovation because there is no mechanism to collaborate or partner to get these research ideas into a practice setting. So this continues to be an issue in 2023. All right, this is what you've been waiting on. And I can see it in your eyes that I can see it in your eyes that this is what you came to this conference for. What we do next. If I had a drum set, I would do a drum roll right now. So we would do a virtual drum. Oh, we'll see. Man, you gotta love the participation. You gotta love it. All right, so let's talk about the new call. Let's talk about what we do moving forward. And I hope there's some questions at the end of this because I'd really like to know what you all think, because this is something that I've thought a lot about. This is an industry that I've dedicated my life to. Like I said before, I really look at this as a calling. But in some ways, I'm very reflective on, are we really doing what this industry can do and was designed to do? So we, as an industry, need to continue to stretch ourselves, need to continue to challenge ourselves to be the best version of the clinical research industry that we possibly can. And these next couple of slides are going to talk about how we do this together. All right, is everybody ready? All right, our new call to action really requires a comprehensive agenda for clinical research. Where do we go from here? All right, let's talk about the what. What is it that we need to be doing as an agenda? So our goal at the end of the day, right, is to improve public health. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that as our ultimate goal. We think about things like, and I'm looking at my colleague Andre here, we think about things like revenue And even our bosses talk about, well, how's this affecting the bottom line? And that becomes, unfortunately, the thing that motivates what it is our industry is responsible for. The bottom line. Really? The bottom line? Now, we don't want to hurt the bottom line, but that can't be our motivation. It's improving public health. So as we're thinking about the types of studies we want to do at our sites, we need to think about fit for our patient population, right? Fit for the interests of our investigators. How can we be best situated to improve public health? Now, if you concentrate on that as your motivation, I promise you the money will take care of itself. But we have to focus on improving public health. That means prevention. Now, Western medicine is not really that good on prevention, unfortunately. We're bigger on curing and treating than we are preventing. We can learn a lot from Eastern medicine because Eastern medicine is from the other philosophy that we're defaultly healthy, right? We're not, but Western medicine philosophy, it seems like we're defaultly sick, right? And so we have to think about how do we keep people, Jocelyn Elders, right, the Surgeon General, she said, United States, right, has great sick care, terrible health care. And I see a lot of you nodding your heads. I think there was a glimmer of truth to that. We're really good at fixing people when they get sick. Terrible job of keeping people from getting sick in the first place. Public health, epidemiology, looking at trends. Population health. There are things that are tied to populations that give us insight into what we need to do as healthcare professionals. And then big data analysis. We have so much access to data that we can answer public health questions without even interacting with an individual. And so we have to leverage that. Pragmatic clinical trials, we're seeing a lot more of that. We all need to be practicing that, right? Not just the investigational drug, but for example, doing research on outcomes between Farxiga and Jardiance. 2 FDA-approved drugs, but are we really looking at the difference between outcomes in those 2 approved drugs? The FDA approves these drugs, right, and then just says, okay, they're approved, take them to market, go with it. But what we really need to know, are these things doing what they were approved to do? And those are the important questions we need to answer. Community-based and community-informed clinical trials. Let the community kind of dictate what we need to study. We have a bad job of just telling the community what they need. You don't have to agree. But it's sad. It's sad but true. We tell the community what they need, and then we say that you can't do it without us. Sort of this ivory tower, almost paternalistic kind of thing. But we need to let the communities dictate what we study. And then precision personalized medicine. We have so many specimens that are in biobanks across the country. There's no reason why we shouldn't be doing more precision medicine. So this is the what, y'all. Improving public health, pragmatic research, community-informed, and personalized precision medicine. So that's the what. Everybody understand the what? Does everybody understand the what? Okay. All right. You don't have to snap at me. No, I'm just playing. All right, everybody understands the what. All right. Now the how. I firmly believe that everybody should hire Megan. No. If you haven't watched Megan, Megan is bad. I'm telling y'all, Megan is something else. But Megan, this character on this slide, Megan is she's very protective of the people that she loves. And we had to be protective, like Megan, of our industry. We had to be protective of the reputation of our industry. We had to be protective of how we go about our business. We have to be protective of that, right? And so how we do it, we got to look more into the digital space, the remote space. I hope all of you all are dabbling in more digital interactions with research subjects, research participants. I hope you all are dabbling a lot more with remote technologies, even as you monitor and look at your studies. I hope all of you all are doing that. Unbiased and ethical inclusion. This is sort of it's almost a buzzword, right? Inclusion. But it's important that we do this, and we have to do it without stereotyping and exploiting, because unfortunately, that's what I see a lot in this inclusion space. And what I mean by we have to do it without stereotyping, we can't assume things, right? We can't, and we say things like we need to increase minority participation, and how we do it is by providing child care and lowering literacy and lowering reading levels and paying stipends. So you're saying everybody that's minority is broke and dumb and has a bunch of kids they can't take care of. That's what we're really saying when we say that's how you increase money. I know that's kind of a crude description, but that's what we're doing when we do that, right? And then we assume that everybody that's in the majority population has resources and that they're educated. Well, that's also the wrong assumption, right? So we need to include because there's an imperative to include, and there's an imperative to be fair and equitable for everybody. Health equity has never been about making sure that marginalized populations only have better health. Health equity is for everybody to have better health. Health equity comes from the notion, if I can figure out why this population and this population have different outcomes, then I can figure out how to make better outcomes for everybody. Can y'all clap on that? Okay, thank you. That, if you don't get anything else from this talk, that is what health equity is about. It's about everybody being healthier. 55-year-old woman dies, this in a minority population. The majority population, she dies at 75. We haven't accomplished anything if this other population now dies at 75. Yeah, then now they die at the same time. That's not what the goal is. The goal is for both populations to live to their 90, right? That's what health equity is about. So inclusion, unbiased and ethical, and then design for quality of outcomes, right? Less focus on revenue and speed, more focus on quality. So we get a bad rap on it's taking too long to set up this audit. It's taking too long to monitor this study. We don't have the bandwidth to do such and such and such and such. We're worried about speed and efficiency, but we're not thinking about quality. Quality has to trump all the speed and efficiency things every single time. So that is the how. So we have the what, we have the how. How? Digital, inclusive, and designed for quality of outcomes and not necessarily quantity. All right. Now the why. So we talked about the what, we talked about the how, now let's talk about the why. Pursuing eradication and elimination of disease. At the end of the day, that is why we do what we do. And you all are so important in the eradication and elimination of disease. I hope you all realize what's on the other end of what it is you all do. Because sometimes we get bogged down in the forms and the approvals and the committees, and we forget that there's a little 2-year-old girl with a rare disease that is now going to live because of your work. And we can never, ever lose sight of the importance of what we do. So quit saying stuff like, oh, I'm just a coordinator. Quit saying stuff like, oh, I'm just in regulatory. I'm just in QA. Quit saying that. No, you're not just a coordinator. You're a lifesaver. And you can never understate and undervalue what you bring to the world, because what you bring to the world is so important and special. Moving forward from our past, there's some bad stuff that has happened that this country has been, unfortunately, a very integral part of. We've done some bad things. But we can't let those bad things that have happened in history continue to plague us today. I was talking to Fred Gray. Fred Gray, if any of y'all know who Fred Gray, he's like the attorney of the civil rights stars, right? He was Martin Luther King's attorney, he was Rosa Parks' attorney. And I was talking to him, and he was talking about the syphilis study. And Fred Gray also was the attorney for the families in the syphilis study. And he said to me, he said, Quincy, the syphilis study has done enough damage. This is Fred Gray saying this. They worked directly with the families of the victims of the syphilis study. He said, the fact that I'm seeing particularly black people say, I'm not going to the doctor, or I'm not going to participate in research because of what happened in Macon County, Alabama, he said, those individuals were turned over in their grave. Now that's powerful. He said, quit letting this study continue to damage our population. And that's what we talk about this study like it happened this morning. Yeah, this happened a long time ago and it was terrible, but we have to move past it. we need inclusive enrollment. And if that's the barrier, we need to talk through it. Hey, what are the issues here? There's a trust issue. We acknowledge the history, but hey, how do we move forward? How do we make sure that you still have a seat at the table and a voice in the conversation? So we have to move past. We're still talking about inherit-elects. We're using a 2023 lens to talk about something that happened in 1951, which is not good. It's not helpful for our industry. We need to look at that event in its proper context in history, see how we learn from it, but we can't keep just being obsessed with things that happened in the past. We got to move forward. So present solutions, not past problems. And then lastly, providing a platform where society can collectively enhance the human condition. So these communities that we work with, it's not just about their physical health, right? Communities have real things that they're thinking about. And we have to be very much sensitive to that. We have to actually turn subjects into participants. And I really like the earlier talk in the opening plenary when she says, we're people, we're not guinea pigs, we're not, things to plod and poke. But we had to start treating them like participants. Yeah, we had to start treating them like participants because right now we're not. Right now we're still treating them as subjects. And so even though calling them participants may make us feel better, if we're not treating them like participants, then we really haven't made any real progress. So introspection is the key. So you see that cat. You see how that cat sees itself? I'm going to pause for a minute. Y'all can just embrace that graphic there. So that cat realizes that, I'll say she, because I like when cats are female. So she knows that she's a cat, right? But she sees herself as a lion, royalty, impactful, difference maker. Is that how you see yourselves as a clinical research professional? Because that's what you are. That's what you are. But that's what you are. But you have to see yourself as the important contributor to the world that you are. So, a couple of things I want you all to do with me. I want you all to say these things with me. First thing I want you to say is, I am a skilled professional. All right. Let me count it off. Maybe that's a bit later. So I'm gonna count it off so you're gonna say I'm a skilled professional on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I am a skilled professional. Nobody knows what we know. Nobody does, right? If you're in an academic setting, if you're in a healthcare setting, I don't care what research site, sponsor, CRO, I don't care what it is that you do. I don't care what kind of organization you work for. Nobody knows what you know. You are a skilled, highly specialized, skilled professional. Okay? So I'm glad that all of you all said that. And if you didn't say it, we can talk later. There's some there's some insecurity there. Hey, we'll work through it. Yeah, all right. All right, next thing I want y'all to say with me on the count of 3 is, I am a pioneer. 1, 2, 3. All right, y'all did not say that with your chest, but it's okay. Pioneer. What do I mean by pioneer? Some of the things that we're doing, groundbreaking. I mean, groundbreaking. And some of you in this room participated in studies that are absolutely just going to change the entire game in a certain disease. And in that regard, we become pioneers, right? We become the people that are the first to get something to a stage where it can start helping people, right? And so being a pioneer is something that we don't really associate with our profession, but it's a huge part of what it is that we do. All right, the next one. This is a longer one, so I'm going to count this one off. I am a continuous quality improvement expert. 1, 2, 3. I am a continuous quality improvement expert. You all are constantly looking at how to do your job better, even if you're not doing it in a formal way. Every time you do a study, you think about what went well in the study. And I know you all. I've worked with all different types of clinical research professionals. You're constantly thinking of, okay, how can I do this better? Oh, this was a snag. Now I know how to do it better the next time. And we become these QI experts even without having QI training. And you notice that if those of you that are new in the industry, think about the difference between the first study you coordinated and the 10th study you coordinated, right? It was like night and day. And it was because you were continually to improve, becoming the best version of yourself as a clinical research professional. Next one, we're almost done. On the count of 3, I want you to say, I'm a change agent. 1, 2, 3. Change agent. Do you ever associate being a change agent to your profession? Yeah, you are. You are helping people look at things in a completely different way. You're helping communities look at research as a way to connect to their healthcare and improve their healthcare situation. You're changing the mindset of people that think of clinical research as the guinea pig. My sister-in-law calls me the guinea pig protector. And Danielle, she says it like that's like my actual title, right? Yeah, Quincy. Oh yeah, he's a guinea pig protector. And I think she's complimenting me, I guess. Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure she's complimenting me, but it's this notion of research. We are able to change sort of the perception of this industry and what it is that we do, and it's not just about guinea pigs. It's about how we're improving healthcare. And then the last one, on the count of 3, say, I am an ethics champion. See, look, y'all see, that's that QI I'm talking about. That's that quality improvement I'm talking about. Yeah, no, I'm an ethics champion, right? Aristotle, right? Aristotle said what? By philosophy, I do without being commanded what others do only for the fear of the law. Right? Aristotle said that. And what did he mean by that? He meant you do the right thing, not because you're worried about getting fined, or you're worried about getting in trouble, or you're worried about getting a 483 or a warrant letter. You do the right thing because it's the right thing. And that's what I see in this industry. We do the right thing because it's the right thing. Yeah, I know. I know we talk about regs and stuff, and we want to follow the regs. We want the regs. You know, regs. You know, just feel I hear that like in my sleep. Regs. What do the regs say? The regs. You see my hand. The whole face looks for the regs. But it's about doing the right thing. Not because of the regs, because sometimes we face situations that there's not really a reg that really covers it, at least it doesn't cover it specifically. Then we have to think ethically, what's the right thing to do, right? And so we're ethics champions. And so the last thing I want you to say with me on the count of 3 is, I have been called to excellence. 1, 2, 3. I have been called to excellence. With regard to excellence, it is not enough to know it, but we must try to have it and use it. Once again, by philosophy, I do without being commanded what others do only from the fear of the law. We have all been called to excellence. We've all been called to a high standard of integrity. And I am so proud to be part of your network. I'm so proud to join you as a fellow laborer in this profession. And I am confident that we will enthusiastically embrace this new call to action. Thank you for your time. God bless.